My name is Tyler Henderson. I am 19 years old, and 48 hours ago, I learned that my father loved me more than I ever knew. But let me start from the beginning, because this story is not just about money. It is about a man who saw through lies, a woman who thought she had won, and a son who almost gave up on everything. The phone call came during my chemistry lecture. Professor Wilson was explaining molecular bonds when my phone vibrated in my pocket. I normally would not check it during class, but something made me look. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. My stomach turned. You know that feeling when you just know something is wrong. That was me in that moment. I grabbed my backpack and walked out of the lecture hall. My hands shook as I listened to the voicemail. Mr. Henderson, this is Gerald Hartwick from Hartwick & Associates. I am your late father's attorney. It is imperative that you contact me immediately regarding your father's estate. The reading of the will is scheduled for tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon. Please call me back at this number. Late father. The words hit me like a truck. I stood in the hallway, students flowing around me like I was a rock in a river, and I could not breathe. My dad was dead. Michael Henderson, 52 years old, had died of a massive heart attack 3 days ago, and nobody had told me. Not his wife, not his assistant, not anyone from his company. I had to find out from a lawyer's voicemail. I called the number back with shaking fingers. The secretary put me through immediately. Mr. Henderson, the attorney said, his voice grave and professional. I apologize for the circumstances of this call. I have been trying to reach you for 2 days, but the contact information I had was outdated. My dad is dead, I asked, even though I already knew. I needed to hear it said out loud. I am deeply sorry for your loss. Your father passed away on Monday evening. The funeral was this morning. This morning. They had buried my father this morning, and I was not there. I was in a chemistry class learning about covalent bonds while they put my dad in the ground. Why was I not informed? My voice cracked. There was a pause. I cannot speak to that, Mr. Henderson. However, I can tell you that your father left very specific instructions regarding his estate, and your presence at the will reading is not optional. It is mandatory. Can you be at my office tomorrow at 2? I looked around the campus. I was 300 miles from home, from the house I grew up in before my mother died, and my father married Jennifer. 300 miles from the woman who made it very clear I was not welcome anymore. I will be there, I said. That night, I drove home. Well, I drove to the city where I grew up. It was not home anymore. Home had stopped being home when I was 16, and my mother lost her battle with cancer. Home became a foreign country when my father married Jennifer 6 months later. Home turned into a war zone when she decided that I was competition for my father's attention and money. I got to the city at 1 in the morning and checked into a cheap motel near the highway. I could not afford anything better. My father had cut off my college fund 2 years ago. Jennifer had convinced him I was spoiled, that I needed to learn to make my own way. So I worked 3 part-time jobs, took out student loans, and barely slept most nights. But I was doing it. I was making it work, because I had to. The motel room smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams. I lay on the bed that was more lumps than mattress and stared at the ceiling. I had not seen my father in over a year. The last time was my 18th birthday. He took me to dinner, just the 2 of us. Jennifer had some charity event she could not miss. Over steak and potatoes, my dad seemed like he wanted to say something, but the words never came. He gave me a card with $500 in it and a note that said, "I am proud of you, son. Keep going." That was it. 2 months later, the college fund was gone and the monthly allowance stopped. I fell asleep thinking about my mother. She would have hated all of this. She would have fought Jennifer tooth and nail. My mom was small, barely 5 feet tall, but she was fierce. When she got sick, she made my dad promise to take care of me. "Tyler comes first," she said in the hospital, her voice weak but determined. "Always. Promise me, Michael." And he promised. But promises are easy to break when someone is whispering poison in your ear every single day. The next morning, I put on the only suit I owned. It was from my high school graduation, a little tight now because I had put on muscle from the construction job I worked on weekends. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw my mother's eyes looking back. She had given me her green eyes, her stubborn chin. I hoped she also gave me her strength, because I was going to need it. Hartwick & Associates was in a glass tower downtown, the kind of building where everything costs too much and everyone walks too fast. I took the elevator to the 14th floor. The receptionist, an older woman with kind eyes, smiled at me. "You must be Tyler Henderson. Mr. Hartwick is expecting you. Conference room B, down the hall to the left." I walked down the hall. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I did not know what to expect. I did not know who would be there. When I opened the conference room door, I found out. Jennifer sat at the head of the table like a queen on a throne. She was 45 but looked younger, thanks to the plastic surgeon my dad paid for. Blonde hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless, designer dress that probably cost more than my entire semester's tuition. Next to her sat her sister, Carol, and Carol's husband, Mark. They were whispering to each other and did not even look up when I entered. But Jennifer did. Her eyes locked onto mine, and for just a second, I saw surprise. Then it was gone, replaced by that cold smile I knew so well. "Tyler," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "What a surprise. I did not think you would bother to show up." "Nobody told me he died," I said, staying by the door. I did not want to sit down. I did not want to be any closer to her than necessary. "Tragic accident," Jennifer said, examining her nails. His heart just gave out. The doctors said he had been under tremendous stress. Of course. He never told anyone. You know your father. Always keeping things to himself. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. "I tried to call you, Tyler, but your number was disconnected." That was a lie. My number had been the same for 3 years, but I did not challenge her. What was the point? The door opened behind me, and Gerald Hartwick entered. He was in his 60s, gray hair, expensive suit, the kind of lawyer rich people hire. He looked at me and extended his hand. "Tyler Henderson, thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." I sat as far from Jennifer as possible. Hartwick sat at the opposite end of the table from her and opened his briefcase. He pulled out a thick folder and a sealed envelope. "We are here for the reading of Michael Henderson's last will and testament. Before we begin, I need to confirm everyone's identity." He looked at Jennifer. "Jennifer Henderson, surviving spouse?" "Yes," she said. "Carol Brennan, sister-in-law?" "Yes," Carol said. "Mark Brennan, brother-in-law?" "Yes," Mark said. "And Tyler Henderson, biological son?" "Yes," I said. My voice sounded small in that big room. Hartwick nodded and adjusted his glasses. "Very well. Let me begin by saying that Michael Henderson was very specific about his wishes. This will was executed 6 weeks ago, superseding all previous versions. Mr. Henderson came to me with very clear instructions about how his estate was to be distributed." He paused and looked at each of us. "The estate is valued at approximately $154 million. I heard Jennifer inhale sharply. Even she had not known the exact number. My dad had been wealthy, I knew that. He built his tech company from nothing, sold it for a fortune, and invested wisely. But $154 million was more than I had imagined. The will is quite detailed," Hartwick continued, "but I will summarize the key provisions. First, To Carol and Mark Brennan, Mr. Henderson leaves the sum of $50,000 each in appreciation for your friendship over the years. Carol and Mark nodded, trying to look somber, but failing to hide their disappointment. $100,000 total was nothing compared to what they had probably hoped for. Second, Hartwick said, and I saw him glance at me before continuing. To Jennifer Henderson, Mr. Henderson leaves the following: the house in Connecticut, the condo in Miami, the cars registered in her name, and a trust fund of $5 million. $5 million. It was a huge amount of money, but Jennifer's face went pale. I saw her hands grip the arms of her chair. That is it, she whispered. $5 million. Let me finish, please, Hartwick said firmly. The $5 million trust comes with conditions. Mrs. Henderson, you are to receive $250,000 per year for 20 years, provided you do not contest this will in any way. If you challenge any aspect of this document, the trust is void, and you receive nothing beyond the properties already mentioned. This is ridiculous, Jennifer said, standing up. I was his wife. I am entitled to. You are entitled to exactly what he left you, Hartwick interrupted, which brings me to the final and largest provision. He looked directly at me. To Tyler Henderson, biological son, Michael Henderson leaves the remainder of his estate. This includes the primary residence in Colorado, the investment portfolio, all business interests, the trust funds established before his marriage to Jennifer Henderson, and all liquid assets. The total value is approximately $148 million. The room went silent. I could not breathe. I could not think. $148 million. It was impossible. It was insane. It was not real. No, Jennifer said. The word came out like a hiss. No. This is not legal. He was not in his right mind. I will contest this. I will. If you contest it, you lose your $5 million, Hartwick reminded her calmly. Mr. Henderson anticipated you might react this way. He left me a letter to read in the event of any objections. Would you like me to read it now? Jennifer sat back, down slowly. Her face was white except for 2 red spots on her cheeks. Read it, she said through clenched teeth. Hartwick opened the sealed envelope. He pulled out 2 pieces of paper covered in my father's handwriting. I recognized it immediately, that careful script he used for important things. This letter is addressed to Jennifer, Hartwick said, but Mr. Henderson wanted it read aloud in front of everyone. He cleared his throat and began to read. Jennifer, if you are hearing this letter, it means I am gone, and you are unhappy with my decisions. I am not surprised. Let me be very clear about why I structured my will this way. When I married you, I was grieving. My wife, the love of my life, had just died. I was lost, and you were there. You were beautiful, attentive, understanding. You made me feel alive again. I thought I was lucky to have found someone who could help me heal. I was wrong. I watched Jennifer's face as Hartwick read. She was frozen, her mouth slightly open. It took me almost 2 years to see what you really were, my father's words continued. By then, you had isolated me from my son, convinced me he was spoiled and ungrateful, persuaded me to cut off his support so he would learn responsibility. You played on my grief and my guilt. Every time Tyler called, you had a reason why I should not answer. Every time he needed me, you had an excuse for why I should say no. You wanted him gone, and I let you push him away. That is my greatest regret. I felt tears burning in my eyes. I had thought my dad had stopped loving me. I thought I had disappointed him somehow. But he had seen. He had known. 6 weeks ago, Hartwick continued reading, I was looking for a file on your computer. You had left it open in my study. I found a folder marked private, and curiosity got the better of me. What I found inside changed everything. Hundreds of emails between you and your sister, Carol. Detailed plans for how to completely remove Tyler from my life. Discussions about how to make me distrust him, how to intercept his calls and messages, how to ensure he would not be at family events. You even discussed hiring a private investigator to find dirt on him. Anything you could use to turn me against my own son. Jennifer stood up again. This is slander. Michael was sick. He was confused. Sit down, Mrs. Henderson, Hartwick said, his voice hard now, or I will have security escort you out, and you will forfeit even the $5 million. She sat, but her hands were shaking. I printed everything. My father's letter went on. All the emails, all the text messages, all the proof of your calculated campaign against my son. I gave copies to Mr. Hartwick, with instructions to make them public if you contested this will. But I want you to know, Jennifer, that I do not hate you. I pity you. You had everything. A man who loved you, a comfortable life, security, and it was not enough. You needed to destroy an 18-year-old boy to feel powerful. That says more about you than anything I could write. Hartwick paused and turned to the second page. This next part is for Tyler, he said, and looked at me. Son, if you are hearing this, I am gone and I am sorry. I am sorry I let her come between us. I am sorry I believed her lies. I am sorry I was not strong enough to see what was happening until it was almost too late. Your mother would be ashamed of me, and she would be right. I could not hold back the tears anymore. They ran down my face, and I did not care who saw. I know the last 2 years have been hard. My dad's letter continued. I know you worked yourself to exhaustion to pay for school. I know you slept in your car some nights because you could not afford rent. I knew all of it, Tyler. I had someone checking on you, making sure you were safe. It killed me to watch you struggle, but I needed to see something. I needed to see if you would give up or if you would fight. You fought, son. You never asked me for help, never begged, never played the victim. You just kept going. That is when I knew you were going to be okay. More than okay. You are strong, like your mother. I put my head in my hands. Sobs shook my shoulders. My dad had been watching. He had known. He had not abandoned me. The money I am leaving you comes with no strings, Hartwick read. Use it to finish school. Use it to start a business. Use it to travel the world. Use it to help people who are struggling like you were. I trust you to do the right thing because you have your mother's heart. Take care of yourself, son. Make me proud. You already have. Love always, Dad. Hartwick folded the letter and looked at Jennifer. Do you wish to contest the will, Mrs. Henderson? She said nothing for a long moment. Then she grabbed her purse and stood up. Keep your blood money, she spat at me. I hope it makes you happy. She stormed out of the room. Carol and Mark followed her without saying a word. When they were gone, I broke down completely. Huge, gasping sobs that I could not control. Hartwick walked around the table and put his hand on my shoulder. Take your time, son. Take all the time you need. When I finally pulled myself together, Hartwick sat down next to me. Your father was a good man, he said. He made mistakes, we all do, but he tried to fix them. He wanted you to know that he loved you. I never doubted he loved me, I said, my voice hoarse. I thought I had disappointed him somehow. I thought I was not good enough. You were always good enough, Hartwick said. More than good enough. Now, we have some paperwork to go through. The estate is complex, but I will guide you through everything. You are going to need a financial advisor, probably several. I can recommend some people. But Tyler, I want you to remember something. This money does not define you. You were already successful. You were already strong. This just makes things easier. Over the next few hours, Hartwick explained everything. The investment accounts, the properties, the business interests. My father had built an empire, and now it was mine. But all I could think about was that letter. Those words, "You already have made me proud." That evening, I went to the house where I grew up. Jennifer had already cleared out. The house was mine now. Hartwick had given me the keys. I walked through the rooms, touching things I remembered from before my mother died. Her piano was still in the living room. Her books were still on the shelves. My father had kept everything. I went to my old bedroom. It was exactly as I had left it the day Jennifer kicked me out. My posters on the walls, my books on the desk, my baseball trophies on the shelf. It was like a shrine to the boy I used to be. I sat on the bed and looked around. This room held so many memories. My mother reading to me at night. My father teaching me to tie a tie before my first dance. Family game nights. Laughter. Love. Then I saw it. On my desk, partially hidden behind some books, was an envelope with my name on it. I walked over and picked it up. The handwriting was my father's. Inside was a birthday card, the kind you buy at the drugstore. On the front was a picture of a father and son fishing. Inside, my father had written, "Tyler, happy 19th birthday. I know you think I forgot. I did not. I could never forget. I am working on something that will make things right. Trust me, I love you more than you know. Dad. P.S. Your mother would be so proud of the man you have become." The date on the card was 2 months ago. My birthday. He had written this 2 months ago, probably around the same time he found Jennifer's emails and changed his will. He had been planning this, planning to fix things, planning to give me everything back. I sat on my old bed, holding that card, and I cried again. But this time they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. My father had loved me. He had always loved me. He had just been lost for a while, manipulated by someone who saw him as a means to an end. But in the end, he found his way back. The next few weeks were a blur. Lawyers, accountants, financial advisors. Everyone wanted a piece of my time. Jennifer had already moved out of the Connecticut house and was living in the Miami condo. Hartwick sent her a letter reminding her that if she said anything negative about my father or me in public, she would lose the $5 million. She stayed quiet. I finished the semester at school, but it felt different now. I did not have to work 3 jobs anymore. I could focus on my studies. I could sleep. I could eat real food instead of ramen noodles. But I did not change everything. I kept my same dorm room. I kept my same friends. I did not tell anyone about the money except my roommate, Jake, who I trusted completely. "Dude," Jake said when I told him, "you are a millionaire. 100 millionaire. I corrected, "That is insane. What are you going to do?" "Finish school," I said. "Then figure it out." But I already knew some things I wanted to do. I wanted to set up a scholarship fund in my mother's name for students who lost a parent. I wanted to donate to the Cancer Research Center where my mother was treated. I wanted to help kids like me, kids who were working themselves to death trying to make it through college. I also wanted to find my father's old friends, the people he had distanced himself from when Jennifer entered his life. I wanted to tell them he was sorry. I wanted them to know he had not forgotten them. 3 months after my father died, I went to visit his grave. It was the first time since the funeral I had missed. The headstone was simple. Michael Henderson, beloved husband and father. Jennifer had not even put my mother's name on it, even though they were buried side by side. I would fix that. I sat on the grass next to his grave and talked to him. I told him about school. I told him about the scholarship fund. I told him that I was dating a girl named Emma who volunteered at an animal shelter and made me laugh. I told him I was okay. "I understand now, Dad," I said out loud, not caring if anyone heard me. "I understand why you did what you did. You were human. You made mistakes, but you fixed them, and that is what matters. You fixed them before it was too late." I put my hand on the cold marble of the headstone. "I am going to make you proud," I said. I am going to use this money to do good things. I am going to help people. I am going to be the kind of man you and Mom raised me to be. I promise." A breeze rustled the leaves in the trees around the cemetery. It was probably just wind, but I liked to think it was my father acknowledging me, telling me he knew I would be okay. I stood up and brushed the grass off my jeans. As I walked back to my car, I thought about Jennifer. I did not hate her. I felt sorry for her. She had thrown away something real for money, and in the end, she lost both. She lost my father's love, and she lost the fortune she had schemed to get. She would have her $5 million, but that would run out eventually, especially the way she spent money. She would grow old alone, with nothing but her designer clothes and her regrets. I, on the other hand, had something she could never take away. I had my father's love. I had his respect. I had proof that even when things looked darkest, even when I felt most alone, I was loved. That letter, those words, were worth more than all the money in the world. As I drove back to campus, my phone rang. It was Hartwick. "Tyler, I wanted to let you know that the final paperwork has been processed. Everything is officially transferred to your name. You are now legally and completely in control of your father's estate. Thank you, Mr. Hartwick, for everything. It was my honor, son. Your father would be very proud of how you have handled all of this. Most 19-year-olds would have gone crazy with this kind of money. You have been mature and thoughtful. That speaks volumes." After we hung up, I pulled into a rest stop and just sat for a moment. $148 million. It was mine. All of it. I could buy anything, go anywhere, do anything. The possibilities were endless. But I already knew what I wanted. I wanted to finish my degree. I wanted to fall in love. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to make a difference. The money would help with that, but it would not define me. I was Tyler Henderson, son of Michael and Sarah Henderson. I was a survivor. I was strong, and I was going to be okay. I thought about what my mother used to tell me when I was little and scared. "Baby," she would say, stroking my hair, "you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think." She was quoting Winnie the Pooh, but I did not know that then. I just knew her words made me feel safe. Mom was right. I was strong. I had survived my mother's death. I survived Jennifer's cruelty. I survived being cut off and struggling through school alone. I survived all of it, and I came out the other side. The money was nice, but I would have been okay without it. I was already okay. That realization hit me like a wave. I did not need the money to validate me. I did not need it to prove I was worthy. I had already proven that by refusing to give up, by working 3 jobs, by sleeping in my car and still showing up to class the next day. That was strength. That was character. The money was just a tool, a way to do more good in the world. I pulled back onto the highway and headed to school. Emma was waiting for me. We had plans to study together and then maybe catch a movie. Normal college stuff. And that was exactly what I wanted. Normal, real, meaningful. When I got back to campus, I found Emma in the library. She looked up and smiled when she saw me. "Hey, how did it go?" "Good," I said, sliding into the chair next to her. "Everything is finalized. So you are officially rich now." "Officially rich," I confirmed. She squeezed my hand. "Does it feel different?" "Not really," I said honestly. "I mean, it is surreal, but I am still me. You are still you. We still have a biology exam next week that I am totally not ready for." Emma laughed. "That is why I love you. $100 million, and you are worried about biology." "Wait, what?" I said. "What did you just say?" She blushed. "I said that is why I love you." It was the first time either of us had said those words. I looked at her. This amazing girl who knew about the money, but did not care, who liked me for me, and I knew. "I love you too," I said. Good, she said, grinning. Now can we please study? Because unlike you, I do not have a trust fund to fall back on if I fail out of school. We studied for hours, and it was perfect. Just two college kids trying to understand cellular respiration and making terrible jokes about mitochondria being the powerhouse of the cell. This was what life was supposed to be. Simple moments, with people you care about. Later that night, lying in my dorm room, I thought about everything that had happened. 3 months ago, I was a broke college kid working multiple jobs just to survive. Now, I was a wealthy orphan with more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. But I was still the same person. Still Tyler Henderson. Still trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to be. I pulled out my phone and looked at a photo of my parents. It was from before my mom got sick, from a family vacation to the beach. We were all tan and happy, building sandcastles and laughing. That was the family I remembered. That was what I wanted to honor. I made a promise to myself that night. I would not let the money change me. I would not become someone my mother would not recognize. I would use it to do good, to help people, to make a difference. But I would stay grounded. I would stay real. I would stay me. The next morning, I had my first meeting with the financial advisor Hartwick had recommended. Her name was Patricia Chun, and she was scary smart. Most people in your situation want to buy everything immediately, she said. Cars, houses, boats. Please do not do that. Let us invest wisely, set up proper structures, and make sure this money lasts not just for you, but for your children and grandchildren. I want to set up a scholarship fund, I told her, in my mother's name, for students who lost a parent. Patricia smiled. That is a beautiful idea. How much are you thinking? 10 million to start, I said. Is that too much? That is perfect, she said. With proper management, that endowment could fund hundreds of scholarships over the years. We spent 3 hours going over plans. Patricia helped me understand the responsibility that came with this wealth. It was not just about me anymore. It was about the legacy I would leave, the impact I could make. That was both exciting and terrifying. Over the next few months, things started to take shape. The scholarship fund was established. I donated $2 million to cancer research. I bought the house where I grew up and turned it into a community center for at-risk youth. My mother would have loved that. I also tracked down some of my father's old friends. There was Robert, his college roommate, who had not spoken to my father in 3 years. Jennifer did not like me, Robert said when I called him. She thought I was a bad influence. Your dad chose her over our friendship. He regretted that. I told Robert. He really did. He was manipulated, but he saw through it eventually. He would want you to know that. Robert was quiet for a long moment. I miss him, Tyler. He was a good man. He just made some bad choices. We all do, I said. But he tried to fix them. That has to count for something. Robert agreed to meet me for coffee. We spent hours talking about my father, sharing stories, laughing and crying. It felt good to connect with someone who knew my dad before Jennifer, who remembered the man he really was. I also reached out to my father's sister, Aunt Linda. She lived in Oregon and had been estranged from the family for years. Your father and I had a fight, she told me when I called. Over Jennifer. I told him she was using him. He did not want to hear it. We said things we should not have said, and we never fixed it. He would want you to know he was sorry, I said. He realized you were right. Aunt Linda cried on the phone. I loved my brother, she said. I should have tried harder to stay in his life. He should have tried harder too, I said. But it is not too late for us. You are my family. I would like to get to know you. Aunt Linda flew out for Thanksgiving. We had dinner together, just the two of us, and she told me stories about my father as a kid, how he was shy and awkward, how he loved to read, how he always stood up for the underdog. You are like him, she said. More than you know. That meant everything to me. As the 1-year anniversary of my father's death approached, I realized something important. I was not angry anymore. Not at Jennifer. Not at my father. Not at the universe. I had worked through the grief and the confusion and the hurt, and I had come out the other side. I was at peace. Jennifer, on the other hand, was not doing well. I heard through Hartwick that she had already burned through half of her $5 million. Designer clothes, expensive trips, plastic surgery. She was trying to find another wealthy man to marry, but word had gotten out about what she had done to my father and me. Nobody wanted her. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. I did not take pleasure in her downfall. I just felt sad for her. She could have had a good life. My father would have taken care of her. But she was too greedy, too manipulative, too focused on what she did not have instead of appreciating what she did. Now she had nothing that mattered. Money, but no love. Status, but no respect. Things, but no peace. On the anniversary of my father's death, I went back to the cemetery. This time, I brought Emma with me. I wanted her to meet my parents, even if it was just at their graves. I told them about her, about school, about the scholarship fund that had already helped 50 students. I told them I was happy. Your parents would be proud of you, Emma said, holding my hand. I hope so, I said. I am trying to be the kind of man they wanted me to be. You already are, Emma said. As we walked back to the car, I realized something. My father's last gift to me was not the money. It was the letter. Those words. That proof that I was loved. That I mattered. That I was enough. That was the real inheritance. The money would run out eventually, decades from now, but those words would stay with me forever. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo of the letter that Hartwick had sent me. I read it again, as I had done 100 times before. You already have made me proud. 5 words that changed everything. I thought about Jennifer's face when she heard the will. The shock, the rage, the disbelief. She had been so sure she had won. She had spent 3 years poisoning my relationship with my father, isolating him, making him doubt me. And in the end, none of it worked. In the end, love won. Truth won. I won. But it did not feel like winning. It felt like surviving. It felt like healing. It felt like finally being able to breathe after holding my breath for years. As Emma drove us back to campus, I looked out the window at the world going by. Families in their cars. Kids playing in yards. People living their normal lives. I was one of them again. Not the broke kid working 3 jobs. Not the abandoned son. Just Tyler, a college student who happened to have some money, trying to figure out his life, one day at a time. That night, I sat down and wrote a letter to my father. I would never be able to send it, but I needed to write it anyway. Dear Dad, it has been a year since you died. A year since Jennifer sat in that conference room thinking she had won. A year since I learned that you never stopped loving me. I want you to know that I am okay. More than okay. I am happy. I am doing well in school. I have a girlfriend you would love. I am using your money to help people, just like you wanted me to. The scholarship fund has already changed lives. The community center is thriving. I am making a difference. I am also learning to forgive. To forgive Jennifer for what she did. To forgive you for the mistakes you made. To forgive myself for ever doubting that I was loved. We are all human. We all mess up. But you tried to fix things, Dad. You tried to make it right. And that means everything. I miss you every day. I miss your laugh, your terrible dad jokes, your advice that I pretended to ignore but always remembered. I miss having you in my corner, but I carry you with me. Every decision I make, I ask myself, what would Dad want me to do? Usually, the answer is clear. I hope I am making you proud. I hope you are at peace. I hope you and Mom are together somewhere, watching over me and shaking your heads at the mistakes I am still making. I love you, Dad. I always did, even when I thought you had stopped loving me. Thank you for seeing through the lies. Thank you for fighting for me. Thank you for the letter. Those words saved me. Love always, Tyler. I folded the letter and put it in my desk drawer. Someday, maybe I would leave it at his grave. Or maybe I would keep it for myself. A private conversation between a father and son. The next day, I got a call from Patricia. Tyler, I wanted to let you know that the scholarship fund has received its first thank you letter. A young woman named Sarah who lost her mother to cancer. She said your scholarship is the only reason she can stay in school. She wanted you to know that you changed her life. I had to sit down. A 19-year-old girl named Sarah, like my mother, who lost her mother to cancer, like me. The universe had a way of connecting things. Can I write back to her? I asked. Of course, Patricia said. I will send you her information. That night, I wrote to Sarah. I told her about my mother. I told her about the pain of loss, the struggle to keep going, the moments when giving up seemed easier than fighting. But I also told her about hope, about healing, about how the love we receive from those we lose never really leaves us. Sarah wrote back a week later. Thank you for understanding, she said. Most people tell me it will get better, but they do not really get it. You get it. You lived it. That means more than you know. We started corresponding regularly. Just emails, sharing our experiences, supporting each other. It reminded me that the money was not the point. Connection was the point. Helping people was the point. Making a difference was the point. As my sophomore year continued, I found my rhythm. Classes during the day, studying in the evening, time with Emma on weekends. I joined a volunteer program that built houses for low-income families. I tutored kids at the community center I had funded. I lived my life, but I never forgot where I came from. I never forgot the days when I ate ramen for every meal because I could not afford anything else. I never forgot sleeping in my car because rent was due and I was short. I never forgot the shame of having to ask for extensions on assignments because I was working a double shift. Those experiences shaped me. They made me who I was, and I would not trade them for anything because they taught me empathy. They taught me resilience. They taught me that material wealth does not define a person. Character does. One day, I ran into someone from high school, Brad, who used to bully me for having old clothes and a beat-up car. He was working at a coffee shop near campus. Tyler, he said, surprised. Man, I heard about your dad. I am sorry. Thanks, I said. I also heard you inherited everything. That is crazy. You must be loaded now. I shrugged. I am getting by. Brad laughed. Dude, you do not have to be modest. Everyone knows you are rich now. So what are you driving? Ferrari? Lambo? Same Honda Civic I had in high school, I said honestly. It still runs. Brad looked confused. Why? Because it still runs. I repeated. Why would I replace something that works? I could see Brad did not get it, and that was okay. Some people equate worth with possessions. I did not. Not anymore. Maybe I never did. As I walked away with my coffee, I realized something. The money had not changed me, but it had changed how people saw me. Some people, like Brad, suddenly wanted to be my friend. Others were intimidated and avoided me. A few, like Emma and Jake, treated me exactly the same. Those were the people who mattered. I made a decision that day. I was not going to tell people about the money unless absolutely necessary. I was just going to be Tyler, regular college student, regular guy, because that was who I was. The money was just numbers in an account. It did not define me. The semester ended with good grades and a sense of accomplishment. I had maintained my GPA while managing a fortune, starting a foundation, and building a relationship. I was exhausted but happy. Over winter break, I went back to Colorado. The community center was thriving. Kids came every day after school for homework help, sports, art classes. It was everything my mother had dreamed of when she talked about making a difference. I spent a week there, playing basketball with kids, helping with homework, just being present. Those were some of the best days of my life. On Christmas Eve, I went to my parents' graves. I brought flowers for both of them. "Merry Christmas," I said. "I wish you were here. I wish you could see what we are building. I think you would be happy." As I stood there in the cold, snow falling gently around me, I felt at peace. I had been given an incredible gift, not just the money, but the knowledge that I was loved, that I mattered, that I was enough, and that, more than anything, was what I wanted to pass on. To Sarah and the other scholarship recipients, to the kids at the community center, to everyone I met, you are enough. You are loved. You matter. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. As I drove away from the cemetery, my phone rang. It was Aunt Linda. "Merry Christmas, Tyler. I just wanted to tell you that I am proud of you. Your father would be proud too." "Thanks, Aunt Linda. That means a lot." "I am serious," she said. "You could have become bitter and angry. You could have turned into someone terrible. But you chose to be kind. You chose to help people. That takes real strength." After we hung up, I thought about her words. I could have become bitter. I had every reason to be. But what would that accomplish? It would not bring my father back. It would not heal the hurt. It would just make me miserable. Instead, I chose forgiveness. I chose to move forward. I chose to use what I had been given to make the world a little better. That was the legacy I wanted to leave. Not wealth, not possessions, but impact, kindness, love. As the new year began, I made a resolution. I would live every day in a way that would make my parents proud. I would work hard, love deeply, help others, and stay true to myself. The money was a tool, nothing more. The real treasure was the relationships I built, the lives I touched, the difference I made. And if Jennifer was somewhere out there, still angry and bitter about what she lost, that was her choice. I hoped someday she would find peace. I hoped she would realize that love is worth more than money, that integrity cannot be bought, that manipulation always fails in the end. But I could not control her journey. I could only control my own. My name is Tyler Henderson. I am 19 years old. I am the son of two incredible people who taught me about love, strength, and perseverance. I am a college student, a friend, a boyfriend, a philanthropist, and a survivor. I have more money than I need, but that does not define me. What defines me is how I choose to live, how I choose to love, and how I choose to make a difference. My father left me $148 million, but his real gift was much more valuable. He left me proof that I was loved. He left me a letter that said I was enough, that I made him proud, that I had my mother's heart. That letter is worth more than all the money in the world, because love, real love, is priceless. And I was loved. I am loved. I will always be loved. And that is a fortune no one can ever take away. Thank you for listening to my story of growing up faster than I ever wanted to. I have left 2 more stories on your screen, both from young men who learned that sometimes becoming an adult does not happen at 18. It happens the moment your family needs you to be strong. Click on whichever one speaks to you. And if you want to join our community of people who understand what it is like to be forced to grow up overnight, that notification bell is waiting. Until tomorrow, remember, age is just a number, but courage defines who you really are.